Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are here live for our first YouTube live stream, coming at you from the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy studios, where we not only are now doing live YouTube content, but we also have a podcast. So the podcast has been around since a little over a year now, and on Tuesdays, I share tactical business advice in the healthcare entrepreneur space. We talk about what we're doing, what we're implementing, things that we're learning, and things that are working in our business to help shortcut your path to entrepreneurial success. And then on Thursdays, we actually just kicked off season 2 of our interview episodes, where we interview healthcare entrepreneurs from around the globe, and they talk about their story. They share some insights into what it takes to be successful as a business owner in the healthcare space. So definitely love to have you as a listener on the podcast if you're not already. Definitely don't forget to click the like and subscribe button below, above, wherever it is, to make sure you get more content like this whenever it is released on the YouTube channel. And today I'm going to share with you the number one thing that you need to know before starting a private practice. Now, this content will apply to anybody who's interested in starting a nursing practice or medical practice or clinic of any sort. And I'm going to cover a few things that I've learned as a clinic owner and business owner in the healthcare space, and tell you why this is so important. And it really boils down to liability issues and how much damage practicing outside the scope of practice of for yourself or for your employees, how much that can damage your reputation and your practice financially as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the number one thing you need to know, which is scope of practice issues and regulations and how to overcome those. So this applies, even if you're a physician, it's really important to know this stuff, because as physicians, obviously, you've been in the practice ownership space for longer than anybody else. And you oftentimes, almost every time, hire other licensed professionals to help you in your practice. And so this is vitally important for you, just as important as it is for other licensed types who are listening and considering starting their own practice, like nurse practitioners or nurse anesthetists or physician's assistants, physical therapists, chiropractors, whatever it is. This is applicable to everybody. So when you go to start your practice, the most important thing that you can do is to go to your licensing board and look on their website for links related to the scope of practice for your license type. So for me, I'm a nurse practitioner, nurse anesthetist. I would go to the Board of Nursing in my state, and typically most boards have the information readily available on their site. They shortcut the path to your scope of practice in most states, not all states, but you can go right on the Board of Nursing website, find the link to the Nurse Practice Act, which is what I would look at as a nurse practitioner, to find out what I'm allowed to do and how much physician involvement is needed. Because the big debate and the big thing to figure out is to know how much supervision you need. And it's literally a sliding scale, and every state is different. And that's why you can't take this video or any advice from it as legal advice. It is not legal advice. You need to consult your attorney, one preferably who's licensed in your state, who knows a thing or two about scopes of practice, and they can help guide you. But I'm going to give you some pointers that I think will be super helpful for you in your journey of practice ownership. So as a nurse practitioner, I would go to the Board of Nursing website, find my Nurse Practice Act, and you're going to want to read the entire thing. Now, some states have extremely long practice acts and rules and regulations around what your license type is allowed to do. Florida is one of those. I mean, I printed it out one time, and I want to say it was like 40-something, 50-something pages. Other states, much shorter, and you can print off the Nurse Practice Act in New Mexico, for example, and it is, I believe, under 20 pages. So super short, very to the point. Actually, I think it's under 15 pages. But at any rate, you're going to want to read the whole thing. Make sure you understand everything that's in there, specifically the language that is listed under, near, or around, or related to your license type. For example, the Board of Nursing covers scopes of practice for nursing assistants, LPNs, RNs, nurse practitioners, psychiatric nurse practitioners, nurse anesthetists, all of those. So you just want to go to the section, after you read the whole thing, the section that is specific to your license type, and read it word for word, very detailed. You also want to check out any sections that talk about disciplinary actions and grounds for discipline. Obviously, you want to know exactly what is in there, and you want to make sure you read that section word for word as well, because you don't want to do anything that's listed there, right? You don't want to put your license in jeopardy of being disciplined or revoked. So once you do that, that is going to help you understand what you're allowed to do as for the license type that you hold. And then you're also going to want to do the exact same thing for every other license type who you plan to have working in your practice. If you plan to hire a mental health counselor, for example, you're going to want to know what they're allowed to do. If you're going to hire another nurse practitioner, and you're going to want to know what they can do. If you're going to hire a physician's assistant, you're going to want to know what they can do, right? You have to make sure that when you assign job responsibilities for your staff, that they are all operating within their scopes of practice, and that you're also operating within your scope of practice. That is going to give you the most protection and reduce your risks for liability. Now, physicians, they have a very broad scope of practice, right? So they can pretty much do whatever they've been trained to do. Most states don't even require that they have any fellowships or board certifications by law to do, more specialized types of practice. Typically, that's just regulated by hospital bylaws, and most hospitals tend to shift towards having board certifications now. But you still see physicians practicing in areas where they have no fellowship or no board certification, typically in rural areas. So physicians have really awesome broad scopes of practice, and it's not usually an issue for them, but it is when it comes to the point when they go to hire. So if they're going to hire a physician assistant or nurse practitioner, nurse anesthetist, then obviously they are going to want to do the same thing. And the reason you want to do that is because if a patient were to suffer harm under your care, under a practice that you owned, then if somebody is practicing outside their scope, you, as the clinic owner, are going to be held liable. You will be named in a lawsuit if somebody's practicing outside their scope and a patient is harmed. You're probably going to be named even if somebody's practicing within their scope and a patient is harmed as the owner, and that will have to play out as it will in a lawsuit. But for maximum protection, you want to make sure that at least you're not hiring individuals and telling them to practice outside their scope, because that will get you in a lot more trouble than somebody who made an honest medical error or something and caused injury that way. So this is, from a medical legal standpoint, the best thing and the number one thing that you need to look into, know, and read word for word before you start your practice, no matter what type of practice it is. Now, if you're a nurse practitioner or a CRNA, when it comes to that sliding scale of physician involvement, I want to give you a couple pointers there as well. Now, that sliding scale ranges from 0 physician involvement all the way to physician has to be in your practice physically supervising what you're doing. So every state is different, and that's why you want to consult an attorney in your state. But somewhere you will fall on that scale for your state. And your Nurse Practice Act is where you go to figure out where you fall on that scale. You will find out if you need any physician involvement at all. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're completely independent. You might need the next level up, which is verbal collaboration. You might need the next level higher, which is written collaboration agreement. You might need the next level higher, which is a supervision protocol. You may need the next level higher, which is the highest level of supervision, which is a physician physically watching what you're doing or physically present in the practice. Most states fall into the on this side of the sliding scale, where it is physician collaboration now, or independent practice, or some level of collaboration. So they're on this end. There's over 30 states now where nurse practitioners are considered to be independent practitioners. And the level of independence is, again, dictated by your definition and where you fall on that sliding scale. So hopefully you guys got some value out of this. Hopefully that helps to paint the big picture for you and helps you to understand why you need to know everything about your Nurse Practice Act, or whatever practice act applies to your license type. So if you guys are interested in receiving more content like this, make sure you click the subscribe button wherever it is. Make sure to like this video. That will tell the YouTube algorithms to keep sending you more content. Make sure you turn on your notifications, and every time I create a video with helpful content like this, you will get a notification. Anyways, thanks for tuning in to our very first live stream here by the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy. Again, my name is Jason Duprat, host of the podcast, Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy podcast as well. Love to have you listen there. Otherwise, we will see you here when we do our next video. Talk to you later.